Anunoby just went 1 for 2. Overall, 3 for 4. Former Knick Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, Allen Houston, so many of them here in attendance, hoping to end the championship drought. Missed another. Remember, no timeouts left. Shamet comes in, Bridges comes in.
Legs, you think these Knicks players missing these free throws? They're feeling it.
No
They're
doubt.
feeling the tension, the pressure, how close they are to their ultimate goal. Got to lock in and knock down this one.
And if he makes it now, no timeouts for San Antonio. If you're the Knicks, you just back up or you press up and immediately take a foul in the backcourt.
Clutch
Up
one
four,
there.
you don't even have to foul now.
4-point lead. Here comes Fox. 5 seconds remaining. Fox to Wemby. Wemby tries a three, puts it up, off the mark. Anunoby the rebound. It's over. It's over. Knick fans, this is not a dream. Your long, long wait has ended. Go ahead and cry. After 53 years, the Knicks are finally NBA champions once again.
What is up, you clowns? We're back with another episode of Story Time with The Real Kingfish. I am your host. The marathon continues, and I'm joined by my favorite guest, The Real Kingfish. What's up, man? What's up, champ?
Hey, how you doing, man? Same to you, champ. I guess, yeah, we call each other that now. It's great.
You know, a friend of mine just called me that, and I feel like I should pass it on to you.
Yeah, we did it. We did it. We collectively did it. We all did it. It feels like everybody did it together, doesn't it?
I have never OD'd on content before in this way in my life. I've everything that I look at is Knicks oriented. Everything that pops in my head when I'm just with myself is about the Knicks. Everything is Knicks.
Yeah, I think I need a little bit of a break after this, but it's been amazing. So we talked before they won, right? That was the last time. So
you were very confident, though.
I was feeling very confident. Yes, I'm disappointed we didn't get to go to Game 6 together, but I did feel like they were going to win Game 5. I didn't feel like that in the second and beginning of the third quarter or whenever during Game 5, but I wasn't surprised that they took care of business.
See, I have to say I was not worried at all the whole time. Yeah. I had a feeling, like that was once they didn't get a bigger lead, like they should have had a bigger lead at the beginning of that game. And once they didn't do that, I was like, yo, they're cooked.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen, I don't know, maybe some of the Jordan years, like some of the stuff that happened with Utah, but I'm just not sure I've ever seen anything so predictable. Like one team just sort of like doing the same thing to the other team every time was really like, I don't know, maybe unprecedented, maybe not. It's something sort of only a veteran, really well put together team can do to a bunch of guys who are way ahead of schedule. But I thought pretty unbelievable. But yeah, really exciting. It's like there is a levity. The city is I've never seen the city like this, I have to say.
It was so fun.
Yeah,
it was so fun.
Yeah. And, I was at the parade yesterday, which was really
which is
something.
what I'm hoping your story is oriented.
Yeah. So, I took my daughter. I was the nice thing about I invited my son to come with me. He didn't want to. I made very clear to them it was going to be a tough day. We got there at 6:15.
How was the no? What was the no like from Gabe? Like, was it?
He shook his head. He did not want to say it out loud, but he just shook his head no. And I get it, right? So we got there at 6:15. I stopped. I would say that after 6 o'clock Wednesday, I drank 1 cup of water the whole time through the evening and a cup of water in the morning. We brought 1 Poland Spring bottle with us, and it was just standing there. The only stressful part, I would say, was kind of getting in. Very unclear what was happening. But once we were in, it was, I would say, like New York really at its best. Like people having a good time, a little bit of inappropriate language. People don't drink like they used to, right? So it was, and you couldn't, it was so early in the morning. Luckily, it wasn't hot. It was early. There wasn't a ton of sun. People smoke weed. And like, there's a little bit of that going on, but like people are much less I just remember the Yankee parades back in the day where it was like just show up, everybody's drunk, mashing to the front. But they did a great job, and the players were having a party, man. Like on the floats, off the floats, they were right there. We were right in the front, and
Man.
it was amazing. It was.
Did you
worth
get
it.
a high five from Josh Hart or no?
I did not. The Josh Hart,
Oh.
Sort of the highlight for me. There was when we saw Josh Hart, he was like stepping to the back of his float to do an interview with Alan Hahn. Landry Shamet was on the back of that float, looking like a English tourist. Just shouting, "I love you!" Not even shouting, just saying, "I love you guys."
Just
to
mouthing
everyone.
it.
What a guy!
He
Alvarado.
looks like
Say again?
the guy with the. There's a movie that I can't recall, but there's like a shrunken head. I think it's like Addams Family or something like that.
Sure.
There's like a character with like a little head.
I think Landry Shamet is handsome. I know that's a minor. I know
Top
that's a
half of his head is handsome.
I
It feels as though it's a tale of two different.
let me put it a different way. I think he's attractive. I'm not sure he's handsome.
He's got a nice body.
He's got he's got good style, and he's got good energy. And what are we? People don't need to be perfect. Alvarado by himself, standing on some type of platform, only player with a microphone, just shouting craziness into it. I thought was cool. They clearly had a plan with Sohan and Jordan Clarkson. Like, let these guys, if people are going to use drugs in this parade, like let's put them on the same float, which I thought was smart. I had Fat Joe and Fabulous on my side of the entertainer float.
Okay.
I guess Wu-Tang was on the other side, unfortunately.
Oh,
But fine. I don't want to say anything bad about Fat Joe. My daughter, they were giving out T-shirts, and Lila was in the front, and people kept giving her shirts that she was handing out to the crowd, which was exciting. But she was wearing Ava's like 70s Knicks shirt, and then Spike Lee was on the back of one of these buses, and Lila was yelling to him to look at the shirt, and he thought she was yelling, "Give me a shirt." And then so he was saying back very apologetically, like, "I don't have any shirts to give you." And that went on for what seemed like a long time. So we had our moment with Spike, which was nice.
Well, so let me interject my story. It's not a story. I, for the longest time, was pushing the Spike Lee curse. I thought in my heart of hearts that the Knicks were not going to win until he died, and that everything was his fault. That's what I thought.
He was at the Willis Reed game.
Okay.
Sort of famously, he tells the story of skipping his father's concert, but now I've heard the story that his father encouraged him to skip the concert.
Right, of course.
What have you? But I don't know if we can blame Spike for this. Oh, another highlight: Lila shouted very loudly. She could see ahead more than us that Chalamet was coming on a float, but it turned out it was Bullock.
Oh,
so there was some of that. But
shout out to PS87. I know Timothy Chalamet went to PS87.
Yeah, I've had enough of the celebrity. I am over. The celebrities have got to go. I'm sick of the celebrities. I've had enough of the celebrities.
Well, that's how I feel in general. I feel a bit. I feel a bit jealous in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but like all these people that have come out of the woodwork that are like, I'm kind of like, where were y'all at? A little bit, like a little bit.
There was a float that at the back of it had just Matthew Modine and the dude from Above the Rim.
Right.
The Black Jesus from the Madonna video. And
he's a handsome man.
He's a handsome man. Those dudes have been around. Been around. That guy's a 14th Street Y alum.
Oh, shout out to 14th Street Y.
So it was a great day, and it was hard work. But it was well worth it. I didn't get to see the stuff at City Hall, although I've watched it since. And I speaking of 14th Street Y alums and speaking of City Hall, we do have Charlie. I think we have a guest. I think we have a surprise guest with us. Here.
Do we? Oh,
I think we do.
Oh, I heard that as well, and I see him here. Is it okay? We bring him on now. It's good.
Yeah, bring him on.
Okay,
he's ready.
Well,
I'm here.
This man, let me set the table. This man, one of the more impressive individuals that I know as a human being. He is a New York City politics expert, but first and foremost, he's a ball knower. And I will add that there's not too many human beings that can make the real Kingfish a beta. This is one of them. So I'd like to bring him on. Ben Max, everybody. What's up?
Well, that's too kind of an introduction, but I will take every word of it.
Well, I was going to endorse you for president in 2038, but I thought I'd be getting ahead of myself.
You've already gotten ahead of yourself, but I am happy to be with you. Happy.
Welcome on, man. Welcome
and I just want to say, I wanted to have Ben on because I've heard him. I've been on a podcast with him talking about basketball during the course of the finals. I've heard him on other podcasts talking about basketball, and I felt like I could actually hear him sort of like biting his tongue, like there was more, and it just wasn't appropriate. And I just wanted to give him a chance to share some of the more with our massive audience. And,
there's only about 8 people who listen to this.
Just get into it a little bit, and maybe he can draw us into some. We can share our politics takes.
Oh boy. Well, let me start by saying of the City Hall ceremony, that was awkward, and it was obviously awkward a little bit because of the background in the Mayor Mamdani, Jim Dolan. First of all, just differences of politics and background, but then also they had their disagreements about the watch parties outside MSG and the security, and it was just not a good setup coming into it. And then it was pretty awkward on the stage at City Hall, but everybody got through it, and it was still a great day. But Mamdani gave this rousing Knicks history speech that was like 10 minutes long, that probably went on a little bit long, but was mostly pretty good, I thought. And then Dolan basically got up there for about a minute and made it clear that he didn't love Mamdani's, in his view, grandstanding. So that was quite a scene.
Yeah. So I thought Mamdani's speech was mostly good. I had a major beef with the middle where, look, I just don't think this championship belongs to people like Jared Jeffries and Ronaldo Balkman.
Could not agree more. I totally agree with you. It was way over the top.
Yeah, and I know I like the beginning and I like the end, and I like the 0.4% kind of tying into this notion of what New York is and his, the politics of him. But we don't all have to show our bona fides. Like the Knicks tape era was in some ways the low point, and I didn't appreciate talking about the premier players, and I think that was the 2 minutes that just didn't need to be there.
Totally agree. There was also a weird moment where there was like memories that were out of order. Like Bernard King got mentioned after John Starks, and I was like, what's going on here?
I agree.
I think he's pretending to know more about basketball than he actually does, which is fine. He's a phony, but I couldn't agree with you more. No, in no way, shape, or form does what Langston?
Langston Galloway?
Say? Yeah, no, it does not belong to Langston Galloway at all. Like maybe Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley. Like maybe you can say these guys.
I think the first, when he got into the '90s Knicks, am I wrong that Charles Oakley was the first or second person he said?
Yeah,
I think he said Starks, Ewing, Oakley.
Yeah, okay, I can live with that.
That was all fine. The problem to me was the middle. Like I didn't mind the old shout outs, of course, and I didn't even mind the guys who recently departed.
Yeah, Randall, DiVincenzo, Tibbs.
Yeah.
But the Tibbs thing doesn't get enough love. Like in my opinion, the core of what makes them so good, which is their grit, was installed by that guy. 100%.
See, I feel very conflicted about that. I think with the personnel they've had, I don't know if Tibbs makes that big a difference. When you have Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, some of these guys, I'm just not sure. I feel genuinely conflicted about that. And how the culture was created on this team, but it's probably just a combination.
Yeah, sure.
My biggest issue with the Mamdani speech was he did not at least give a perfunctory congratulations to Dolan and Leon Rose, which I do not understand. And I understand his he wants to be the opposite of Jim Dolan, but you get up there and the owner of the team is sitting there, and Leon Rose, by the way, who just still doesn't even get enough credit for all the moves he made to put this team together. He should have given them a shout. He named 50 former Knicks. He could name the guy who owns the team and the guy who put the team together. So that was
I'm surprised he didn't mention Dave Checketts or Ernie Grunfeld. I mean, it's like he really, really went on. I agree. I think this was a time for the high road and sort of like graciousness, and he could have done better there. I will say though, I am not here for any James Dolan like rehabilitation. I'm still not happy with the George Steinbrenner reinvention that's gone on since he died. I find to be very frustrating, I will say, and I'm not here for Dolan. Like, I get it, but it was like 8 days ago that Trump was at the game. It's like, and tension between mayors and sports owners is not unprecedented. There was always Steinbrenner threatening to move the Yankees to New Jersey and like saying the Bronx was falling apart all around them, et cetera. I don't know which mayor that was. It certainly wasn't Giuliani, but like, I'm not here for that. I'm just not.
Mm. Yeah. Let me say on the positive side, Mamdani and just his win and his term so far, I think have matched this Knicks win really well in terms of energy, the New York City patriotism element that he's got a lot of, and he wants to be a cheerleader for the city and be exciting and bring energy and youth and all that. I think tied in very nicely, and his remarks also tied into that. Although again, they went on a little long and had some pieces that were questionable, but I think overall, there was a nice element of that, and how his win and term so far, also sort of coincide with the Knicks.
Yeah, and I will add, really very little can be said about fan misbehavior, law enforcement issues yesterday. Like, for the most part, I think the city should be very proud of itself. And I think that's all very positive for Mamdani.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just spend a minute talking about those other two clowns who got to speak for no reason? The guy who called Jalen Brunson Jalen Brown, and then the lady. You know what I'm talking about?
Let's
Did you guys
move
see
on
that
to the
part?
basketball.
Oh my God. I just can't we hear other Knicks? Why do we only get Jalen Brunson? Like, I wanted to hear Cat tell Jimmy Butler to go, walk off a short pier or whatever.
Is now the time for that?
I don't know. I wanted more Knicks talking. Anyway, so on to the basketball.
Yeah.
All right. I have two questions. One is, do we have any idea what happened after the Hawks were up 2-1 in the first round? Like, do we have any idea if there was a meeting, if there was I feel like there
was a players only meeting from what I understand.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not caught up on all the coverage, but that feels like a mystery to me in terms of like how this thing went from the Knicks are down 2-1 and everyone's like, oh, Mike Brown was the fifth choice for a reason and needs to get out of town, to now him like leading them on one of the greatest playoff runs of all time, and he's going to be a legend, in Knicks history forever.
Ben, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a players only meeting? Have you led a players only meeting?
Oh, absolutely. In college. Yeah.
Well, tell us about that, because I certainly haven't been.
So one thing that actually came up from my college basketball time that this Knicks team has made me think about a lot is the slow starts. So when I was a senior in college, we had a very mediocre team. We had been really good when I was a junior. And again, I wasn't like a star on either of these teams, but and we, in my senior year, we got off to a lot of slow starts. And as a captain, I was like trying to figure out how we fix this. So I started having us play like a light 3-on-3 in pregame warmups. Again, not to get anybody hurt or anything, but get a real sweat going, get moving on defense, trying to figure that out. And so that was a time where as players, we got together and tried to figure out what the heck is going on with all these slow starts. And so the Knicks team getting off to really terrible starts in so many of these games has made me think about that a lot. So that ties in that type of meeting and one of these issues that I still feel like is a mystery around the Knicks.
To answer your question, though, didn't they? This was something that I don't think Tibbs could have done. Was he changed the offense? And again, I'm not privy to the X's and the O's, but from what I understand, they started running the offense through Cat. Like they would run.
They did do that.
They would run
Right,
Brunson
like
and OG on a yeah.
But I don't think they continued that too much.
No.
In the Hawk series, they like abused them with it.
Right.
They embarrassed them with it.
Yeah, that 50-point win was like that. They just did that over and over and over.
There's just something amazing about basketball that happened here, though, that I think also too is just like once it clicks, it's incredible, you know. And the thing that seemed to click for them was the way they started to really move the ball offensively, in a way that I think they had flashes of during the regular season because they do have a lot of unselfish guys, but it really was this unbelievable sort of like drive and kick offense that was incredible, even though I think Brunson still sometimes holds on to the ball too much. But
well, Shamit and Deuce hitting everything. Like
sure, it helps if you're running driving kick for your shooters to make all their shots.
Yeah. I mean, those guys carried that. That really sort of started to come apart in the finals. But those guys, like you could make the case that, and I realize sports doesn't work this way, but that the sort of marginal benefit they got from what was going on with Shamit in particular, just like got them into the finals. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, but this is also why they were winning games by 40 points until the finals, right? It was like all of a sudden they're just blowing everybody away, and then the finals they didn't quite have that, and the games were tighter. But,
all right, what's your second question?
My second question was, what is like the reason that like Cat just sort of comes and goes, and what actually makes the difference in that is what I still don't quite understand. And one of my medium hot takes of this victory is that I think one of the biggest questions around Cat was like, can he even be the second best player on a championship winning team? And I think the Knicks won with him as the third best player, and that's part of why they were able to win, because OG Anunoby was actually the second best player on this team.
No, you're 100% correct.
I think you're right about that.
100%. And I think Jalen Brunson treats OG as such. Like he's treated him as such the whole time. Like he knows that, if you look at how their other runs puttered out, it was around him getting injured. But I think the Cat thing to me, like, why does he start slow? I think a lot of it is like foul trouble, right? Like if he gets an early foul, like he starts to play tentatively and then it all goes away.
Isn't Cat one of the guys that often starts hot?
I was going to say, I don't think he starts slow.
It's Brunson. I feel like it's Brunson. Brunson's like,
right.
His splits I feel like his first and second half splits are ridiculous.
I think there's also something about Brunson just like outlasting guys.
Yes.
I mean, he looks like a boxer at the end of these games, right? They're like pressing him full court and all this stuff. And I do think there's a way that he is sort of pacing himself and testing. And, he's clearly thinks the game in a way that's different. And that has to be some of this.
To me, this is how. Yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, to me, this is how they win this year. Like the run out was perfect. So if you remember, the Detroit series was amazing. He looked a lot like he did in the finals against Detroit in round 1 last year, but they ran out of juice. They didn't have any juice left at the end of the year. Once you get to the
started getting hurt.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
This is the thing that's incredible about this run, I think, is that Brunson didn't get hurt. He had the one big scare. What was that, game 1?
Yeah, it's game 1.
And then, but that didn't derail him. And the fact that he was healthy throughout the playoffs, and maybe that was helped by the fact that they had 2 sweeps, but him staying healthy, I think, was like maybe the biggest variable in all of this.
They all stayed healthy. The only injuries they had was OG's hamstring, which the time got them. And I'm hoping one of your questions is going to be like, what happened to Mitchell Robinson's finger?
Well, that I think is a great mystery to be solved. But my other question was, to add on, was I don't know if this is out there. I haven't look for it in a few days, but like, what did the Knicks do between the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals to stay in shape and to stay sharp? And obviously they had another bad first half in the first game of the finals, but like, I want to know what the practice regimen was for these guys to stay in such great shape for that long a layoff, and like how they practiced hard, scrimmage and all that without any injuries, because apparently Mitchell Robinson's injury wasn't from practice. So
yeah. I'd like to hear a story that's like they had the Hunter College team come play against them or some crazy thing like that. But I haven't. You're right.
That would have gotten
out
out.
a single thing.
Well, to your point, they experienced it. They just did the same thing. Like they had this kind of layoff back to back. So whatever they did, they at least knew what not to do. Because that first, I mean, it was the same problem in game one, but maybe they switched it up. I mean, I don't know. But
I just I want to actually look at every day's schedule and practice plan and actually know exactly what happened between the end of the Eastern Conference Finals and game one of the finals, because that's an extremely long layoff and they had to stay sharp and they had to stay in shape, and they did those things to an incredible degree. They did without getting hurt.
They lost all the hot shooting though. All the hot shooting was.
Can we just go back to the who's the second best player on the Knicks question,
please,
for a second?
Is that a question?
I don't think it's a question, but I do think that OG Anunoby is a player that really like puts the way players are evaluated, puts the whole thing sort of into question. Like he's so productive on both ends of the floor that, and Ben and I have talked about this before, you probably wouldn't see him in the top, I don't know, in the top 50 before this all happened. I'm not really sure. This guy is a killer. Like he can shoot it. He can bully past you. He can finish at the rim. He's a great defender. And
he's a savage. He's cold as ice. Too.
Yeah. He's ready to have a fight. If you need to have what you name it, he's ready to do it. And he just doesn't, I don't know. And then you have Towns, who is a very good player and has some really high level skills, but is not the same player. And
back to Leon Rose, they built it exactly
incredible.
Right.
Incredible. Can I say this about Cat though? Yes, his production was down a bit, but I do think he exemplified one of the most important things in basketball across the board, which is shot selection. Yeah. He did not force the issue in the finals in a way that needs to be like appreciated, I think, to a significant degree when you're that talented offensively. And I know obviously like you're dealing with Wemby somewhat, but he didn't force shots, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And also that play on the inbounds. I don't know how
my boy Al Palagonia.
Awesome play on the inbounds. Cat, this is a role that he needed. He could never be the one on a team. He could never be, and this is perfect for him. And this situation is perfect for all of them.
Yeah, he's basically like 2A, 2B, right? With Anunoby and
depending on the night. Yeah.
So I can tell you this though, the OG thing, just let me touch on OG for a minute. When they traded for him, I was a little sad because I liked the homegrown Knicks thing, but I did not think that they were getting this by any stretch of the imagination. Did I think they were getting this level of player? But anyway, so go ahead.
To go back to Mamdani for a second, I actually thought that the precise line of player to be mentioned, is right above RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. I would have mentioned everybody above that. So Randall North is in, but I'm sorry, those guys cute.
No, but
they were cute.
Room,
that was
Randall
nice.
North.
Come on.
There's not that much room, Randall North. That's
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, a couple other interesting things I'm interested in your guys' reactions to that I've been thinking about in these playoffs. The continued rise of the combo guard. So it's obviously Curry is the biggest example of this, but now Brunson is right there. And we've obviously had Lillard and Luka and, some of these other guys who are point guards, but they're really the top scorer on the team. And I find that such an interesting element because of the usage. And again, it was a miracle to me that Brunson stayed healthy, given the beating that he takes. This is also a guy who steps in and tries to take charges all the time, which is crazy, but awesome.
Leads the league in them.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
did he lead the league this year? Do you remember last year?
Yeah, he led the league.
Pojemski had some obscene number of charges taken.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
but I think there's something interesting here about, again, the continued rise of the combo guard and the question of usage. And I'm not even talking about usage in like an data analytics sense. I'm talking about, can the guy actually do it and stay healthy? And I think, not to rain on any parades, but one of the biggest questions going into next season will be, how do they manage Brunson's minutes? How do they keep him healthy? Can Alvarado play an even bigger role? Things like that, because I can't believe he stayed healthy for the whole playoffs. Again, they didn't play that many games, so that was huge. But the guy is just dribbling so much, taking such a beating. I don't know how you survive at his size, like for longer, if you're not resting a little bit more.
Combo guard used to be a knock, right?
Right. It used to be you shoot too much as a point guard.
Yeah, it was like, you can't win with a combo guard. And like those combo guards were sort of the ones that were famous were sort of oddities, right? Like I think of like Gilbert Arenas as sort of like the ultimate shithead combo guard, but it was like
Rod Strickland.
Marbury.
What about Rod Strickland?
Marbury, yeah.
I mean, Rod, I feel like Strickland was more of still sort of a pass first guy, but he's in there.
But I agree, and point forwards were fine, right? But like even, it's always been an issue, and now I think you sort of see them all over. I do think Brunson. I mean, the thing about Brunson that people forget is that he's a sort of a strong, he's big in his own way, I guess. But I do think it sort of changed the league. Ben and I have been going back and forth. I'm insisting that Jalen, and I will continue to insist that Jalen Brunson is better than Luka Doncic.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, what am I going to say? I'm not going to argue with you on that. The combo guard thing, I don't know if this is really answering your question or the thing that you bring up. But I think it does a little bit. Like I think maybe the offenses are different now. And like the way the game has changed with all the space, that the point guard doesn't have to necessarily be the ball. Like what I'm referring to is like the running the offense through Cat. That clicks so well in the playoffs. Like maybe, yes, he is the quote unquote point guard, but like, the way that in other sports, when your best player plays a certain position, like you adjust the way that you play. And I think it's perfectly reasonable the way this was always the thing about Thibodeau. Like Brown is flexible enough to play more people and play people more minutes and figure out how that goes going forward. I personally think they figure it out. I think he's smart enough to know like when to use his energy and when not to, especially when it comes to the regular season. Like I'm not concerned with that at all. Like I think he's one of the smartest decision makers I've seen as a human. Like he was the only one who got sleep before Good Morning America. You can very obviously see that. Like this is another decision that he made that is like obviously smart. So, I think they'll be fine. I'm not worried about it at all. I think he'll last a while. But that could just be me hoping.
I think there's something to be said for like, I think there's still, you look at a guy like Brunson, I think Curry is like this too. These guys take a lot of shots. They dribble the ball a lot. They're not chuckers though. Like, and I think they fall short of being sort of traditional point guards and like, let me go make sure that guy gets a shot. But like everyone on the Knicks gets shots for the most part, right? And everybody touches the ball, even though there's a lot of that. And I do think that's sort of that was always the biggest knock. I mean, Allen Iverson was probably number one, actually. I said Gilbert Arenas, but I think there's something to that too.
If you watch the end of that game 4, it's just whenever Brunson passes it, he's just passing it so he can start his dribble again. Like he's just getting the ball back.
Yeah.
So
See, you can't question anything now that they won it, but like I really that bothers me in terms of like the way basketball should be played. It's like he should be going off. He should be like going off a screen through the paint like Curry does, and you might get him on a backdoor layup once or twice a game if you do that.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, Ben always says Ben's quote, which Ben, you know what quote I'm going to say? You know
I don't.
Never trust an over dribbler.
Oh yes, yeah. But again, basketball has changed. I don't know. Maybe I have to change.
Well, no, like I said, I think it's a personnel thing. Like the NBA, as you know, both of you on this call, we know it's not the beautiful game that it was before. Like the Warriors were an anomaly. This is a very like one-on-one league. Like even if you watch, college games, like if you watch the Huskies play or you watch these teams play, like they run stuff. Right. The NFL in the NBA, they're not running. If they have an action, pistol action. There's action, but
it's very funny to me though, because I remember 20 years ago, and it was like the NBA is this unwatchable one-on-one shit. That's all anyone talked about. Now it would be like one-on-one, and the other 3 of the 4 other guys couldn't shoot at all, right? And they were like literally standing around inside the 3-point line. But it was
totally also a lot of like post up.
Yes.
Back to the basket,
yes,
disgusting, like dribble 6 times, backing your guy down. And again, they sort of tried to change.
Yeah, I think of like Glenn Robinson.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But it was also a lot of pick and roll, which we still have a lot of, but now everybody switches and I don't know. But
can I offer this? Like, is it just more fun to watch somebody like Jalen Brunson play one-on-one? Like, it's just fun to watch him do it. Right, like the footwork.
Every time he takes 8 dribbles to like get himself moving, I cringe. I can't take it. It's like he's like rocking. I get it. He's like rocking a little bit, and he's starting to look where's the defense leaning, and I get it. But it drives me crazy.
Yeah, that didn't hit me until now, and now it totally tracks that would drive.
Oh, it hit you! It hit you last year. I've heard you complain about this, Charlie, but that's okay. Not the time.
But also, to a point I made earlier, the Knicks also, there was a lot of Brunson dribbling, but they also did have the ball moving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of drive and kick and creating advantage.
Yeah.
And you have to do that against Wemby, but like there was a lot of that throughout the playoffs, and it was a lot of Brunson hero ball. And then it was also a lot of good team ball and guys like Hart and Alvarado and Bridges there. And I mean, I could keep going because it's actually a great team of team guys. And that's part of how you win a championship is you bring in a lot of guys who actually want to play team basketball. And that was like the incredible thing about the way this team came together on both ends, to do that.
Yeah. Defense not talked about enough, right? Like how well they played on defense.
They were great.
Also, one of my biggest takes on the finals was that the refereeing was fine.
This is your hottest take. This is my favorite.
I think.
Wait, walk me through that. Please,
first of all,
hold my hand like I'm a small child.
I actually think the refereeing favored the Knicks. They were holding and clutching and grabbing Wembanyama constantly without it mostly getting called. And yeah, there were a couple bad calls on Cat. There were bad calls. There's always going to be bad calls, whether the referees are calling it loose or tight. And I think the referees mostly called it loose, which is exactly the way we've always talked about refereeing in the playoffs. They start to swallow the whistle. That's probably good overall, but you have to maintain some control of the game. And I think they mostly did that. I think there were times where they actually undercalled the game, but I think overall, I didn't see a problem with how they refereed.
Okay. The one of the issues that I have was, let me walk backwards. I understand full well that Wemby is probably a really difficult basketball player to officiate. Like, let's be honest, he's a one-of-one basketball player. Nobody's really seen anything like him before, right? So it's probably really difficult to officiate this type of player. But at the same time, I can't agree with you. There were too many missed calls in too many important scenarios. And maybe I'm like caught up in game 5, but there were like so many things that if you tell me, if it's a conspiracy theory, if you tell me like the league told them not to call the thing, fine. But like there's too many missed calls. Like for me to call it a good officiating.
I do, but I do think that I tell my son this. Maybe this isn't true in the NBA, but I say like officiating is always bad. It's sort of like how I try and explain it. Like you're never going to agree, right? And but for example, they didn't call the foul. I know they said it wasn't a foul, but they certainly didn't call anything on OG on the block on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
right? They could have. Right? I mean, like it's sort of hard without thinking moment to moment. One thing for me as a fan that I find very frustrating is when I watch with other people and like it devolves into like, that's a foul, that should have been a foul, call the foul. I want to watch a game with as few calls as possible.
Right. Something that changes.
But also, I as someone who can often be very critical of referees, I also feel like this idea that like the refereeing is going to be bad, that just means we don't have the right amount of tolerance for the fact that this is really hard.
Yeah.
They have the best referees officiating in the finals, give or take a couple, and there's going to be missed calls, and it's just going to happen. I mean, I think, Jonathan, we've talked about this. There's too many reviews, but now they have the reviews, and so they do get some things fixed, and there just has to be tolerance for some bad calls. And what you want is consistency, and you want it to not feel like one team is favored. And if it did feel like the Spurs were favored in Game 5, I think with one team up 3-1 in the other team's building, facing elimination,
that's how it goes.
It's like almost impossible for it not to feel at least a little like they're going to favor the home team, which again, maybe is a problem, but like, that's a tale as old as time.
I just want to say, as far as Ben and officials, I've seen him ejected from a men's league game. So I can tell you that.
Well, Ben, let me ask you a question.
Officiating in a men's league is going to be bad.
For sure. Let me ask you a question though, Ben.
Okay.
The way that Wemby plays to me, and this is why I made that comment earlier, if you watch him as the screener in all of these screener roles, these high screener roles with De'Aaron Fox that they run, he is constantly using his hands to separate and to gain an advantage, like constantly. And from what I understand in playing basketball, again, I didn't play high school basketball, I didn't play college basketball, but a screen is not allowed to be set with one's hands.
100%. This should Wemby has been doing this all season, which I don't understand why he's been allowed to get away with it, especially with the length of his arms.
Right.
Like if Jalen Brunson is setting a back screen and like extends his arms a little, you're not going to notice it that much. Wemby is fully extending his hands into players' backs, setting screens. I don't understand why the referees didn't call it all. I think they called it once.
They called one, yeah.
But he so clearly pushed off on that screen that they had to call it. Right. So yes, I agree. That was strange. But to me, that's
the big problem.
But at the same time, they were letting Knicks players do that too.
Sure.
They might not have done it to the extent Wemby, and they don't have the same arms, but like, I think it was relatively consistent. And should they have called Wemby for like the smush on Brunson? Yes. But also Brunson was holding his jersey, clutching his jersey at the waist before he smushed him. And that was happening constantly to players like Wemby. It happens to Brunson too, where like they're getting fouled before they react, right? And so that has to be taken into consideration.
Ben, you mentioned challenges. Whatever this proximate review challenge situation is one of the worst additions to the sport I've seen in a long time. This thing where the foul is challenged, and then they had a couple of these with Wemby and Towns. They challenge the foul, and then they come back and they say there was an offensive foul that preceded it, or they challenge an out of bounds, and they go forward from or back from the out of bounds, and they say, well, there was a foul there, so the out of bounds actually doesn't matter. The player did this leading up to it. I think is absurd, and had a very, very negative impact, I think, on some of the games in the finals in particular.
Well, and the Spurs actually realized how to use it really well, and that was like a brilliant job by them. The number of times they used the challenge in those situations, I thought that was like they sort of like hacked the system.
They did, and otherwise, I think terrible performance by the Spurs coaching staff, I do think that was
That's
one
fair.
area where they did well.
Well, they're young too, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
but I'm not a doctor, but Harper should have been playing more. Like, it seemed like they learned things as games went on, right? Like what happened in game 1 where Harper didn't play down the stretch, like didn't happen again. It's just like, you got to give him a lot of respect. I feel like he'll like Mitch will learn from this, and like he'll be a really
look,
good
you guys
coach.
not going to get fired. The one mistake that seemed very obvious to me was in game 4 to be up so big for so long in that game and have Wemby like at the most minutes he ever played was a bit. Somebody lost track of something in that context. Yeah. But that's what can you do?
But
all right, should we talk about another thing or two before we get going?
Sure. What else you got?
I gave you my hottest take on the refereeing. I don't have that much more.
That was a good one, man.
I had you speechless for a second.
Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to do is have me speechless.
People are starting to talk to me about next season already.
Okay.
I think the Knicks are probably. I think they'll probably almost be. I mean, obviously, a lot could happen. The Celtics could end up with Giannis, right? That would be sort of a big deal. I don't think Giannis going to the Heat would change much from a Knicks perspective. But do you think the Knicks? I mean, I assume they'll be favorites to win the East next season.
I mean, sort of as of right, they should be. But
yeah,
let's see what Detroit does in the offseason. Let's see what the Celtics do. I mean, even if the Celtics just basically bring everybody back, you got to have a healthy Tatum for real.
That's right.
Dangerous, but the Knicks have to be the favorites coming off a championship. That could change within a month, but
not the Wizards. You guys aren't looking at the Wizards.
AJ Debanza.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about this
the Knicks bench, if the Knicks are going to make any bench moves, I think is a very interesting offseason question. And they also got lucky that, I mean, obviously he broke part of his hand going into the finals, but they both managed him smartly, but they got lucky that they had a mostly healthy Mitchell Robinson season and postseason.
And let me say one thing about Mitchell Robinson. He finally, I know he didn't score. I think he actually finished scoreless, but he had a big impact on that game 5. It was like it had been weeks and weeks, and he had some really big rebounds and some really big plays in that game.
Yeah, he was incredible. Well, let me ask you this. That would be the one way the Knicks team would completely change is if you change the big coming off the bench. Like if you swap Mitch out for a different type of big, like that would be one way to switch it.
My view is you bring like there's probably going to be a question about, if they could save money at that position and blah, 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 the apron. I think in a situation like this where the team is neither young or old and is defending, like you bring all these guys back.
Well,
I'll be the first one to say not to, but bring them back.
Diawara advances. I think that'll be interesting.
Was that you that told me that, Fish? That they were hiding him on purpose?
No, I would never. I don't trafficking conspiracy.
Like they didn't play him any minutes in the playoffs at all. That was weird.
Yeah, they played Sohan whenever they needed a second or two, right? Like a random sort of second or two. No, I don't think they're hiding him. I do think I saw a disturbing number of Diawara jerseys yesterday. Knicks fans are sick. Yeah, I saw multiple Diawara jerseys at the parade yesterday, which tells you everything you need to know. Like Knicks fans are still.
There was a moment probably where people got excited about him during the regular season. And 2, that's you could wind up with that if everything else is sold out. So
it's a backup plan. I went to a Lakers Knicks game out here 2 years ago and a kid had a Kolek jersey. I thought that was sick.
That's racist. Buying a Kolek jersey is racist.
He's the man. What are you talking about?
By far the funniest part of the parade was when he almost got arrested.
Yeah, amazing. Why is he wearing a 1993 Knicks championship shirt? What is happening?
Oh, I didn't see that. That's weird. Eastern Conference champions or something?
It said the Knicks didn't win the 1993 Eastern Conference. I feel like we're living in an alternate reality. I don't know what's happening. Probably a good place for us to finish up.
Yep. My other hot take, which is very depressing, is not really a hot take, but it's a question, which is, are we sure Mike Brown is a good coach?
Oh boy. I'm
serious.
No, I'm sure he's not. I'm sure.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm going to tell you, I can't help but go back into this. I think there are some very serious, not talked about enough. Maybe they are Joe Torre, Mike Brown comparisons, right? They dump Buck Showalter. They bring in this,
Right.
this retread, blah, 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 blah. And like, I think Joe Torre was in some ways a great coach, and in some ways, like, made some very famous mistakes. And I think Mike Brown is very similar, but like, I think Mike Brown is a steady hand. And I think that's also what Joe Torre was. So the answer is yes and no. But your willingness to ask a question like that on a day like today is what I love about you.
Well, I've grown to love you too, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel special. I feel honored. And if you need people for your cabinet in 38, you let me know.
Okay, I don't think there's a presidential election in 38, but that's fine.
I was hoping we would talk about the Nets.
40? What is it?
Wait, hoping we would talk about what?
The Nets, the Brooklyn Nets.
I'm ready when you are.
Now's not the time.
Shout out to the Brooklyn Nets.
We properly spent our time on the Knicks.
I agree. Next time.
I had some Nets thoughts, but next time, big time.
Next time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, awesome.
Awesome as usual. Love you both. Take care of yourselves. Happy Father's Day.
Oh, same to you.
Gotcha.
Well deserved.
All right, gents.
And right now, we can once again give a warm welcome to our Mayor of New York City, Mayor Mamdani.
My fellow New Yorkers, for 53 long years we have watched and we have waited. We have watched from nosebleeds and through gritted teeth, on televisions in the windows of electronic stores, and from projectors balanced on fire escapes. We have watched alone in our apartments with our heads in our hands, shoulder to shoulder at bars where the signal flickers, alongside friends and family who we wish more than anything could be here today, sharing this moment. For 53 long years, we have watched the Knicks and we have waited. We waited as the memory of Willis Reed winning the championship on one leg grew fainter and fainter. We waited as Clyde came up clutch again and again, as John Starks dunked on Jordan and Patrick Ewing dunked on the Pacers, as Bernard King scored 60, as Charles Oakley pulled every rebound within reach, as Spike got in Reggie Miller's face, as Allen Houston put up a shot against Miami that hung in the air for an eternity, as Larry Johnson gave us the four-point play heard around New York, as Starbury traded threes with Kobe and then sold sneakers every kid could afford, as Nate Robinson stuffed Yao Ming, as the city came alive watching Linsanity, and as Melo lived every Brooklyn dreams when he came home and made MSG feel like the center of the universe once again. We waited without ever knowing if this day would come, and we waited because we knew deep down in our sick, suffering hearts that it would. New York City, this team has done it. The New York Knicks are NBA champions. We are here not just because of this team that will go down in New York City legend. I'm talking about guys like Ronaldo Balkman, Marty Collins, Raymond Felton, Marcus Camby, Kristaps Porzingis, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, and the whole Knicks tape era. I'm talking about guys like Tony Douglas, who I watched tie the single-game franchise record for threes from the stands in 2011. I'm talking about Amari, who got this whole city fired up when he joined. And I'm talking about Jared Jeffries and Lance Thomas and Langston Galloway. Players who gave everything every game, even when a 20-win season was all that was in sight. This championship belongs to them too, because championships aren't just built in one season. It belongs to Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and also to a coach who helped lay the groundwork, Tom Thibodeau. Thanks to each of these New Yorkers and too many others to name, New York City has just had two of the most magical months in as long as any of us can remember. Over these past weeks, as the Knicks kept winning, our city has come together as one. Neighbors invited neighbors over. Strangers high-fived one another in the street. Subway conductors sang their announcements and bus drivers danced behind the wheel. So often when this city comes together, it is because we are forced to, by a moment of tragedy or adversity. What a gift it is to be brought together by pure, unfiltered joy. For as long as we live, we will remember this feeling of a city together, a city alive, a city overcome by happiness. But let's not pretend that this was inevitable. If you will allow me, I want to travel back in time 8 days. Game 4, 9 minutes and 33 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Knicks are down 20. The analytics guys, the sports betting companies, the pundits who watch from far away, they do what they do. They run the numbers. They calculate the odds. They write the Knicks off. They give the Spurs a 99.6% chance of winning the game. A 99.6% chance of tying up the series 2-2, of reclaiming the momentum with the next game in San Antonio. A 99.6% chance of silencing the Garden, of another year of watching and waiting. But there is one thing that the pundits just don't get about this team, that they just don't get about this city. It is in that 0.4% that we go to work. It is in that 0.4% that Jalen Brunson, the same guy that so many said was too small, proves that not only is he good enough, he is the new standard for greatness. It is in that 0.4% that OG Anunoby watches the ball float from the top of the arc and start running toward the basket, fingers reaching towards the heavens. It is in that 0.4% that Karl Anthony Towns finds the strength to mourn his mother and still pull in rebound after rebound, make block after block. It is in that 0.4% that Jose Alvarado shows every kid growing up in public housing that a son of Brooklyn and Queens can win for every one of the 5 boroughs. It is in that 0.4% that Mitch breaks his finger before game 1 and says, go get the tape. It's in that 0.4% that Josh Hart gets rebounds that break teams, that McCall Bridges proves he was worth every single draft pick, that Landry Shamet pulls up from downtown, that every one of these 18 players transforms the franchise, that Mike Brown keeps this team believing. Most of all, it's in that 0.4% that the Knicks do what New Yorkers have always done when we are told something is impossible. We find a way. We win. Standing here before what feels like the entire city, there is a Jalen Brunson quote I can't stop thinking about. I'm gonna tell you. You are allowed to think about the worst possible scenario, but you gotta go out there and do something about it. When Jalen Brunson took that pay cut, my friends, that was doing something about it. Time after time, we thought about the worst possible scenario. And time after time, the Knicks went out there and did something about it. The Knicks did not just win for New York City. They won like New York City. What is New York if not your back up against the wall? A dream that feels just out of reach. A rent payment you don't know how you'll ever make. What is New York if not 99.6% of the world stacked against you? And who are New Yorkers if not people who hear those odds and smile? Who look at a 0.4% chance of success and ask, why are you giving me a head start? This is our city. This is our team. For 53 years we watched. For 53 years we waited. Now we've won. One last time, New York, say it with me. Knicks in.